Welcome back to the All Things Ag Gal podcast. I'm your host, Addison Stoddard. Join me as I learn from the women who cultivate, grow, and thrive in agriculture. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the All Things Ag Gal podcast. I am your host, Addison, and today's going to be a good one. It might be a little bit on the shorter side, but this was a topic that kind of just came to me and I rolled with it. I was like, we're going to talk about hot takes in agriculture. Now, I am a firm believer that there are hot takes in everything. No matter what you're talking about, whether it's actually super serious or the silliest thing ever, people are going to have different opinions. And agriculture tends to draw a lot of attention on differing opinions, whether it's in the industry, outside of the industry, whatever it is. There are so many different people that work in agriculture and do different things in agriculture. And so obviously, there are hot takes. Before we fully dive into the hot takes today, I'm going to give you a little update, and I thought of something kind of fun to do. You know that I love the conversational side of a podcast. I love talking with people. I love interacting with people, but I also love doing these solo episodes that can be a little bit more casual and just talk about things that are going on in my life. It has been so busy. First off, wheat harvest in Kansas has started really early. Like, I was talking to a farmer last night. I went to a T-ball game. I was talking to a farmer last night and he's like, I don't think that we've ever seen like a combine out in the field before June 20th. And there are people up in the other side, over on the other side of the state that are finishing up. And so wheat harvest has been really on top of it. It's happening in Kansas. You'll have to give me updates wherever you are with, is winter wheat harvest happening? Are you finished planting? A lot of people around here were trying to get planting done before they started to harvest. And so all of that to say, that rolls back into my job. I have to keep my radar on of making sure I know what's going on all around the state, when things are getting harvested, when things are getting done. I've also been really busy with my side gig. I feel like I come on here and just like talk about work, which makes sense because I work in agriculture. That is like my connection to agriculture in my life right now. But I also have like a good handful of other things that are going on. I'm busy. I'm always busy, but I wanted to talk first about some music that I've been listening to. Sorry, I got kind of, my coworker walked past. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably saw my eyes like dart over there. And I'm like, hey, if you don't know, I film in my recording studio at work. I work in radio. And so like my whole setup, like, duh, why would I do it anywhere else? And so I'm at work. You can watch on YouTube if you didn't know that. You can watch on YouTube, see me waving my hands around like a crazy person. But like I was saying, I want to talk about music that I've been listening to. I have been listening to a lot of music when it comes to just like day-to-day life. I think music is so fun. Obviously, like I said, I work in radio. And so every morning I get on and I do my morning show and I work on like a classic country station. And I saw this TikTok yesterday and it was this kid that definitely was younger than me. Like it was probably 18, 19, didn't know any of the classic country songs. And I was like, this is a tragedy. Like you don't know any classic old country songs. So I wanted to tell you one of my favorites right now. And of course, now I can't find my playlist. But don't worry, I do have a playlist. People ask me all the time, like, do you pay for Spotify? Trust. I still pay for Spotify, even though I work at a radio station. You got to have both, best of both worlds. Okay, here we go. Old country. Obviously, one of my first favorite ones is Sold, the Grundy County Auction, John Michael Montgomery. I can't even find it, but I know it's in here. I also love Next to You, Next to Me, Shenandoah. And let's do one more. Let's do one more that I've been listening to a lot. Oh, Sweethearts of the Rodeo. I'm such a Sweethearts of the Rodeo fan. Since I Found You, great song. If you haven't listened to it. Another one song that I've had on repeat. This I personally would say that it kind of falls more country style. Like I think it sounds countryish when you listen to it, but it is kind of indie, somewhat of an indie band. It's Josiah and the Bonnevilles, Carolina Heart. If you haven't heard that song, you need to go listen to it. Anyway, there's my music update to kind of kick off this episode and do it a little fun. Some of these hot takes I've read through, some of them I haven't. We're just gonna, go for it. If you want to, in the next one of these videos, ag is cool. Trust, that's not a hot take, but I agree. ag is so cool. And I think so many of these hot takes really do come back to that ag is so cool and more people should know about it. One of the other ones, harvest is fun and exciting, not a grind. Okay, I think this is a good one. I think that this can be a little bit of a hot take because harvest can be a grind, especially if things go wrong. Like it can be derailed so quickly. However, I would agree that it is really fun. And an exciting part of agriculture is harvesting all of your hard work. Like that is why we do it. We get on our tractors. We get out in the field hoping to get something out of it, right? We get on our tractors. That was kind of silly to say, but you know what I'm saying. We go out in the field. We do all of the hard work that we do to get results. And so to go into harvest looking for results, getting results, and maybe they're not the best results that we would have wanted, but still getting something out of all the hard work, I do think it's fun and exciting. Now, I posted on TikTok, and that's mainly where I got most of my hot takes. So I'm going to jump on TikTok. If you heard that video playing, sorry. Okay, let's see. These are some good ones. First one, cover crops are extremely necessary and can 100% always be profitable. Fire. Honestly, I'm not even going to make that much commentary on that one because I do think that cover crops are a great asset to agriculture. And I do think that they have a place. So I love that one. This one, my sister actually posted. This is totally going to be anonymous, but you know, she slays. So low stress stockmanship is better than the traditional way of ranching. One of my few strong opinions about the industry. This one I loved because I actually, if you know and have heard me talk a little bit more about what I do for work and whatnot, I personally have more experience in the row crop world of, that side of agriculture. And so I had to do some research on this, and I actually learned so much about the difference between like low stress stockmanships and what you can do in order to transport cattle and get them to do certain things and like get them to go places versus some of the more traditional way of scaring them. And I believe there was like a comment on here. Yeah, somebody else commented and said, yes, we don't even own a hot shot. I think that they're a 98% completely unnecessary and way overused. I thought this was interesting because I think a lot of times people, when they comment, they'll be like, I 100% agree. But I liked how she said, I think they're 98% completely unnecessary. So I do think, I thought that like brought like a really good perspective into this hot take of in the ranching world, like there is a time and a place for everything in agriculture, right? Like I was saying at the beginning, there might be certain situations where that has to be used. But as you transition your mindset to, a low stress stockmanship, you might see some serious benefits of even just like breeding or other things that can come from that. So I thought that was super important to bring up. I really liked that one. This is where we get into the nitty gritty, folks. This is my cup of tea. If you don't know anything about my background, I've really been involved with the leadership and teaching sides of agriculture. Like truly down to my core, like being a farm broadcaster is about teaching. So I love this one. We need more agriculture education at a basic level that made me sound like I have a Southern accent, at a basic level to the consumer. Because in the big 2026, people still don't understand where their food comes from or how it's made. Fires. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, I think that this in the agriculture world and in any world, I talk about this a lot. There's a lot of things that we talk about in the agriculture industry that really do apply to so many industries. But agriculture is so essential for people to know where they get their food from, how they get their food, and oftentimes it's not taught. I was thinking actually a while back about some of the activities that you participate in elementary school. Obviously, everybody's elementary school experience is different, but I do think that there are some similar crossovers, similar videos that we watched or similar activities we did. And I think one that I remember very vividly is growing plants. At some point in public education, I, learned how to grow plants. And then as I got into high school and stuff, you learn more about like greenhouse and taking care of like horticulture and just taking care of plants in general. But as a kid, that is something that you're taught. You're taught about how a plant grows, how you plant a seed. It needs water and sunshine, and then it grows. And I've just thought about that so much, mostly because I don't think that we really talk about what happens after that, especially if you grow something like a flower. flowers are part of agriculture, right? There are so many agriculture businesses that are revolved around flowers, but it's not the same as like growing a tomato or growing some sort of commodity that you have to grow, and what happens to it after. There is not fully that grasping of that principle of harvesting and eating it and maybe even shipping it or like sending it to somebody else. Like, how does that all work? That is not something that I learned until I was much, much older. So I love this hot take. Honestly, I don't even think it's that hot. Like, I do think that it's an important take and something that should definitely be considered. Everybody should be cover cropping and no-tilling. Love. I have learned and done a lot of research about no-till, especially since I've been out here, like out in Kansas. Before I moved out to Kansas, I was doing a lot of research on it and kind of learning about it. And then I moved out here and saw a lot of things, like being implemented like that, strip till, no till, and just different things. I find it very interesting why farmers choose to do that, why they choose not to do that, wherever it fits into their operation. I do think, I would agree with this hot take though. I do think that there are places where it needs to be implemented more and where more people need to become educated on it. Now, something I wanted to bring up, I was trying to remember what I wanted to bring up about this topic. I find that it's really interesting in agriculture how passed down things are from generation to generation. Now, if you really think about it, like in the business world or, in the engineering or the mechanics world, like anything like that where you're building and like progressing, there are a lot of fundamentals that have changed. Even I think like technology, technology is very intense about advancing. And I would argue and say that agriculture also is really heavy on advancing things, on, getting things put into the future and improving technology. But I think those handheld family practices, they're really hard to get rid of. It's something that is passed down generation to generation. And there are a large amount of farm families that have a hard time getting rid of those. I can't say that they're wrong for that. I do think that there are certain traditions, certain ways that are passed down that make sense. But I would say that, no-till, cover cropping, all of those things that we've learned over the last 20 years through technology, through soil sampling, which we'll get to, I think those things need to be better implemented. I would agree with that. Okay, many farmers are drastically Many families are drastically under-investing in soil sampling and over-investing in fertilizer. I thought that was an interesting one, just because I would agree that soil sampling is so essential, and I don't know a ton about it. I should have really prefaced this episode with a lot of this is my opinion and your guys' opinions. However, I do think that I have heard a lot about, under-investing in soil sampling. And the farmers that I've learned from that are doing a lot of soil sampling, it makes a difference, right? The next one, showing livestock shows future generations more life skills and responsibilities than most other school activities. I would agree. I would 1000% agree. Now, it's kind of funny in my job now. I help a lot with the county fairs in the area. I go with my coworkers. I go, and just help the extension agents and stuff. And I find it interesting because I'm the only one kind of within my coworkers that was really super involved in agriculture growing up. And I showed animals, and I think they have a hard time understanding, like, why are they doing it? Like, what's the importance of it? And there's so many skills that come from showing livestock. And that's just like, in my opinion, just within the summer. Like, there are people that show livestock year round, right? Like, they're showing livestock in the spring at all these national shows. Even if you're just having a 4-H animal for the summer, the skills that you can gain from that of, one, being responsible for an animal, two, understanding that you're not going to win if you don't put the work in. Like, the kids that are winning at these stock shows, at county fairs even, they are putting the work in. And so I think it shows just a lot of like value of effort and hard work and all of those things that are really valuable for a kid to learn. Even just taking care of something else other than themselves. I think it comes in handy later in life. So I would agree with that one. This one's long. It says, just because someone is new to ag life doesn't mean that they are dumb. I didn't grow up around animals or farming until I met my husband. Whoa. And I've always wanted to learn more about it. People will judge you because they know more than you about certain subjects surrounding ag. But it's hard to find people who care about teaching others. I don't want to say where she lived. I learn something new every single day about life over here, and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love this one. I didn't necessarily grow up directly in agriculture, and having people that are really willing to teach you is so valuable. One comment further down, I'm going to skip a couple, and it says people need to quit fighting over things that are surface level. Cattle breeds, tractor colors, all of those things. Leave each other be and come together since we're already such a small voice on the world stage. Now, I love some tractor color banter. I'm not going to lie. I think it's kind of funny occasionally, but I would agree that there are certain things in agriculture about how long your pants are, what brand of boot you're wearing, what kind of cows you show, whatever it may be, that we have to be careful. We have to be careful that we're not scaring people off, that we're not making people feel like they can't come into the agriculture world. I remember, I'll share a little bit of a personal experience. I remember having a friend in high school that was super involved in the agriculture world and really kind of got me introduced into FFA. And I really valued her friendship, and I really valued like learning from her. But I look back now and I don't really know her anymore. We've grown up and gone our separate ways, but I never wanted to be the kind of person that taught somebody else the way I was taught about agriculture. And it was more about like pointing things out that people were doing wrong. Does that make sense? Pointing out when, people came across as fake, or people came across as, not actually being a farm kid, or not actually growing up on the farm, because I didn't actually grow up on the farm. And I always have tried to like make sure that I'm teaching people about agriculture and the things that actually matter, teaching them about soil health, teaching them about row crops and like what it means and like what all the different tractors do, not teaching them, okay, you have to wear this kind of shoes and do your hair this way and like wear these certain particular items in order to be involved in agriculture. It's just not realistic. And if we continue to live in like a space where that is what agriculture is, like people are just going to be turned away from it. I think that it happens, again, for the millionth time that I'm going to say this, it happens in every industry. Like I grew up playing sports. Like, of course that happened growing up playing sports. But the more people we invite and the more people we make excited about agriculture, the better off we're going to be. Okay, I only have a couple left that I want to read. Oh, large-scale feedlots are more efficient and economically friendly than most people realize. I could go on and on about like large feed yards and different things like that. Even I took a tour this week of a dairy, really large dairy where I live, and there's just so many people that could potentially go into that facility and be like, oh, like these cows are just like not taken care of. They are the most spoiled animals, and they are taken such good care of, and they are monitored so closely, even though there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And I just think that's an important reminder. That was my last one of those that I'm going to read. But I do want to take a second and share my own personal hot takes. Dun, dun, dun. I actually don't really have that many because I think that people really, really hit the nail on the head when it comes to agriculture hot takes. My first one, and this is something I would say like has become my hot take over the last year. Ag is more determined by policy than many people think. I have spent my year writing about what's going on in the nation's capital in regards to agriculture, and I have learned so much, you guys. There is so much that happens in the agriculture policy world that trickles down so quickly to individual farmers. And so not only should obviously farmers be literate on what is going on in the nation's capital, what is happening, but like consumers as well. For example, right now, E15 is a huge topic. The Farm Bill, a huge topic. And I can guarantee that most Americans don't know about either of those topics and the impact that they could have. Obviously, if you're not that worried about those things, if you're not that worried about a farm bill, like it's probably not going to impact going on in the Capitol, and like voicing your opinion is so important, whatever that opinion is. And the last one, ag is for everyone. That's where this podcast is rooted from. Ag is for men and women and any ethnicity, if you speak any language, and any degree of involvement that you want, you can have. You can have it. I hope someday that won't be in the hot takes episode, right? That anybody can be involved in agriculture, young, old, married, single, whatever it is. And it doesn't even have to be a question. You don't have to bat your eye about being involved in agriculture. It really is for everybody. And I think that's so exciting. Whether you live in a city or not, whether you're surrounded by agriculture or not, it's for you. And farmers are doing the most that they can to provide you with good food and fuel and whatever else you may need. So I'm so thankful for okay with that. But I did want to kind of round it out a little bit with what we should do with these hot takes. What's the point of having a hot take if we're not going to make it a cold take? That sounded like a millennial saying, like something you would put on a t-shirt. Why not change your hot takes into your cold takes? But I do think it's true to an extent. Like if we're having hot takes or things that really should be changed in the agriculture industry, what are we doing to change them, to educate people? The first one is loving people in agriculture. And yeah, I'm getting really mushy, I know. But we talked about it, inviting everybody from all spaces to just hear your opinions. And if they don't accept them, that's okay. Also, being open-minded on your end. Being open-minded is so hard. I am fully aware of it. And I think it's something that I've become more comfortable with just because I do have to be so neutral in my job. There are things that happen in the agriculture world, in the policy world, even just in my own community that I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm going to write a really good article about it because it still happened, or it's still fact, even if I don't believe that it's true. Does that make sense? And so just being open-minded, like there have been things in my personal opinion that have been changed because I was open-minded and I was willing to listen to what people had to say. Ultimately, be willing to be educated and be willing to educate other people. That's what makes a difference in our industry. You don't have to work on the Hill. You don't have to be some hotshot reporter. You don't have to be an ag teacher if you don't want to be. But if you are involved in agriculture, most importantly, if you're a woman in agriculture, being a woman in agriculture matters. It matters because you can educate and you can teach people better than most people can. So share what you know about agriculture. Share your hot takes, share your opinions, and do them with the desire to help people better the industry. All right, that's going to be the wrap up for this episode today. Thanks so much for being here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you want to be on the inside scoop of sharing your thoughts, sharing your opinions on these episodes that I reach out, you can just follow me on Instagram. It's All Things Ag Gal. It'll pop up. It's a little picture of me and says Agriculture Podcast or something along those lines. I don't know. I change it occasionally. And then you can follow me on TikTok as well. It's just addison.stoddard. So you can find all my social media there. You can also find it linked in the description of this episode. Also, something that helps out with these episodes and the production of these episodes, if you give it a like, if you're in Spotify or Apple or whatever, you can save it. You can leave a comment if there's something that you want to hear. If you're annoyed with me and you want it to be different, I might not take your opinion, but I might as well. So definitely share what you think I can do. Also, most importantly, if you have anybody that you would love to have on the podcast, a guest, a family member, a friend, make sure to go to my website, allthingsaggal.com, and leave their name and number so I can reach out and chat with them. Anyway, I love you guys so much. I love agriculture. I love women. And most importantly, I love women in agriculture. I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.